All right, so today our goal is going to be to write an equation perpendicular to a line through a given point. So we're going to start with the line that was given. So that would be the given line. And then this problem asks us to graph a line perpendicular to the given line going through -4, 3. So what we're going to do is we first have to figure out what is the equation of the given line. So this given line here has a starting point at 3. So our y-intercept is going to be +3. Then we have to figure out what the slope is. So something x plus 3. The slope is going, I know it's kind of hard to see on these points, but it looks like it's going up 4, right 3. So 4/3 x plus 3. That looks like that's what our equation is currently. Okay. Now, typically what I would do is what we're going to do is we're going to plot this point -4, 3. So -4, 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, up 1, 2, 3. We're going to plot that point right there. Okay. Now we have to construct. So this is where you would use your compass, and I'm going to sketch it first just to show you, remind you how to do the construction, but obviously I can't do the construction on the iPad I'm currently working on. So I'm going to kind of draw what this construction would look like. I would put my point of my compass on this point, and then I would make a fairly large arc. So it looks like that sunrise if you were to turn your paper. And then from each of these endpoints is where I would then do a loop-de-loop. So it would look like this, and then like this. And then I would connect this point, and it should also go through the red point. Okay, I am going to erase these constructions because obviously that was not a very pretty construction. And I'm going to draw in what this line is going to look like though. So it would look like this if I were to construct it properly. And what this is we can see that these lines are perpendicular. Okay, it's a line, so I'm going to put arrows on both ends. But what would happen is when we look and figure out this orange line that we constructed, what is the slope of that orange line? And you'll notice that that slope is a negative, and it's going down 3 and to the right 4. Okay, and it's going through the point -4, 3, because that's where we had started. So notice the slope of the original was 4/3. How does it go from being 4/3 to -3/4? It's going to -3/4 because these are opposite and reciprocal slopes. So when you have perpendicular lines, they're going to be opposite and reciprocals. Now we already know, because we've been practicing in 3.5 and in 3.6, how to write an equation given a slope and given a point. If we know that, we can do it one of two ways. You can write it in point-slope form first, or you can write it in slope-intercept form, y equals -3/4 x plus b, and have the unknown. Now we can see what the b is because we've already graphed it. The b should be going through 0, 0. So our b should be 0. But I'm going to walk you through this just in case. So we would plug in the 3 for y. We would plug in -4 for x. And now we could solve for b. -3 times -4 is +12. 12 divided by 4. So let me show you what I did. I did the top number times this number. So -3 times -4 is +12 divided by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3 plus b. Now subtract the 3 on both sides. and you have 0 is equal to b. So our equation for this orange line right here is y equals negative 3/4 x plus 0. And you don't have to write plus 0 because when you add 0, nothing changes. All right, so scrolling down, it says lines that are perpendicular have, and we need to write in there, opposite reciprocal slopes. So we're going to practice this. On Friday, you guys practiced slopes of parallel lines. So if the slope of a parallel line is the same, if this was parallel to this being the original, then our parallel slope would have to be the same thing. But now if I'm doing perpendicular, I need to change the sign and flip the fraction. So this would be a positive 2/1, which is the same thing as just 2. So I'm going to pause the screen here. I want you guys to pause the video, and I want you to try it for 4, -3, 5/6, and -2/9. Okay, so this is what I got. When you're talking about m is 4, the slope is 4, it's technically 4 divided by 1, because when you divide by 1, it doesn't change the value. So 4/1 is what we would say that is. Same thing with -3. You can write that -3/1 so you can see that fraction for when you go to do the opposite reciprocal. The parallel slope should be the same for every single one, okay? But when you do the perpendicular, you're going to change the sign and flip it. So for this one, this was a positive, so we did it as a negative. This was 4/1, so we wrote it as 1/4. A negative becomes a positive, 3/1 becomes 1/3. Positive now is a negative, 5/6 becomes 6/5. Negative becomes a positive, 2/9 becomes 9/2. So we just have to get in the habit of finding the new slope. Okay, so we are going to do another practice problem, and it's on the back, so go ahead and flip your notes over. And then we're going to do the practice problem, then we're going to come back to the horizontal and vertical lines. So write an equation for a line perpendicular to y equals 7x plus 5, and it has to go through the point -14.5. So what you're going to do is very similarly to when we were looking at the parallel lines, you're going to take out the key information. Our original slope is 7. So we need to figure out our new slope and our point that it needs to go through. And then we forget about all of this information. So our new slope has to be opposite. So if it was started as a positive, it's not going to be negative. It started as 7/1, so it's 1/7 is our new slope. And our point is that -14.5 point. Now we don't have to worry about that at all. We're just trying to write an equation with this slope, and this point. So we can do this one of two ways. I'm going to show you both ways. We can write it in point slope form first. So remember, point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You like to do it that way. Or you can write it in y equals mx plus b form and fill in what you know and find the unknown. Y minus y1 would be y minus 5 equals, m is going to be -1/7 now, times x minus -14, so plus 14. Remember, it shows up opposite in the point as it does in the equation. 5 looks like -5, -14 looks like +14. All right, so we have to distribute that -1/7 through. We're going to get y minus 5 equals -1/7 x. Nope, that's going to be a minus because negative times positive. Okay, 1 times 14 is 14. Divided by 7 is 2. 1 times 14. Think about it as 14/1. So 14 on top, 7 on the bottom. 14 divided by 7 is 2. Then we can add 5 on both sides. And we're going to get y equals -1/7 x plus 3. That would be your final answer because we're writing this equation in slope-intercept form. Okay. Now, if we did it this other way, we would fill in the y that we know is 5 equals our slope is -1/7. our x that we know is negative 14, and we don't know the b value. So now we're going to find the b value. 5 equals a negative times a negative is a positive. 14 times 1 is 14, divided by 7 is 2, so 2 plus b. Then subtract 2 on both sides. You're going to get 3 equals b. And now that we know our b, we already had our m, y equals negative 1/7 x plus 3, which is our b. Notice we're going to get the same answer regardless of how we did it. Now, our last step is to go back up to horizontal and vertical lines. So what I want you to take from this is how to write an equation for a horizontal and vertical line. If I have a horizontal line, all I need to look at is where does it go through on the y-axis. If it goes through negative 3, it goes through the y-axis, so y equals negative 3. It never changes from negative 3. All the points have a y value of negative 3, no matter where it's at. It'd be negative 3, negative 3, negative 2, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, negative 3, 0, negative 3, 1, negative 3. So y is always negative 3. So your equation for a horizontal line is y equals a number. This is it's a special type of equation. It's the only one that doesn't have a y and an x. Every other equation that you're going to write has to have a y, has to have an x, has to have an equal sign. Those are your 3 checks for writing an equation. However, this is a unique situation when it is a horizontal line. Similarly, if we draw a vertical line, let's say that vertical line is going through negative 2. This one is going through the x-axis. So this one we would write x equals negative 2. And that one is also a special line. It doesn't have a y value in the equation. It's just x equals negative 2. So if I was trying to come up with a line parallel to this, it would also have to be a y equals equation. So if I gave you a problem and said, find a line parallel to y equals 3 going through negative 1/7. We would know that if it has to be parallel, it would also have to be a y equals equation because it has to be another horizontal line. And horizontal lines are always y equals. Well, if you look at the y in your point, y has to be 7. So that would be a line parallel to it. Now, if I instead said, let me erase this. If I instead said perpendicular, okay, then this would no longer be my answer. Because if I was perpendicular to a horizontal line, I would be talking about a vertical line. If I'm going through the point negative 1/7, this would be a vertical line like this. So I'd have an x equals equation. Well, x has to be then negative 1. Okay, so these ones are supposed to actually be easier than the example like what we did down here, because there's no work to show. It's all about, you have to picture it in your mind and think about it. So if you have any questions, let me know.